Joining us now is our friend Charles Hurt, columnist for the Washington Times. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So I'm sorry, we always seem to talk on a day when absolutely nothing is happening in the world.
Yes, but I hope your bosom is filled with freedom now that we've had yet another spring, Middle East spring. I guess this time it's going to work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it depends who Obama's supporting this time around. I got to tell you, they hate us. I mean, there are so many signs that I saw, some I can't repeat on radio or television, of Obama, what they think of Obama. Hey, Obama, our president is your B.I.-itch. And other things. I mean, they blame Obama, many of them, for putting Morsi or making it possible for Morsi to become their president.
Yeah, and Steve, I think that one of the things that we're seeing over there is a lot of this pent-up frustration. Not necessarily that the United States president was, took sides in something, or the United States president was wrong about something, but President Obama did something that few presidents before did. He went to the Middle East and he made all these extravagant promises about spreading peace around the world and changing things for them. And a lot of these people that we see rioting in the streets all across the Middle East were spoken to directly by him and heard the promises that he made, and were very much filled with the same sorts of things that I think a lot of American voters heard when he gave all of his wonderful, gauzy, empty speeches that only now we're realizing were totally empty. And it's that frustration, and they're reacting, and it's so clear that, as you just pointed out, they are reacting not necessarily to just their condition and their own little political environment in their country. They are absolutely reacting to the President of the United States, and that's what angers them, is that he has failed to fulfill the promises he made to them. And my goodness, what a strange and terrifying situation we find ourselves in.
No, you couldn't be more accurate with everything you said. Your analysis is spot on. And, of course, when it comes to our national interests here, separate from what the people feel there, Hosni Mubarak certainly were meeting our needs and Israel's needs and the security needs of the region. And then you put this wild card in there in the Muslim Brotherhood, who we were told by John Brennan, who today admitted to Congress he misled them because he forgot about the Patriot Act when answering a question under oath. That happens to me all the time. I sometimes forget my name when I tell people who I am. Anyway, under oath. We were told by him that the Muslim Brotherhood, they're good people in the Middle East and in Egypt. They're not a threat. They're not violent. They just want to do good. So, I could see why the people of Egypt would hold Obama and his administration, at least partially responsible for what they had to get rid of.
Yeah, and you remember, Steve, when he came out and he made his first major address to the Muslim world, and for those of us who are not his natural allies, political allies, I'm a lot more probably conservative politically than he is, but I did realize that there was like this moment of where you had a guy who was coming into the White House who could have spoken with extraordinary authority to the Muslim world and said, and sort of offered peace, but said there will be no peace as long as you all don't reform your hateful ways and murderous ways towards the Western world. That was the moral authority he had going into it. But what did he say instead of that? He went over there and told them that one of his jobs as president of the United States, he went to Egypt. In Egypt, he said one of his jobs as president of the United States is to dispel rumors and myths about Islam.
I
Really?
know. It was as bizarre. It was as bizarre and frightening a speech as you could ever get from the newly elected leader of the United States of America, given where it was said and what was said. It was totally bizarre. But you know what? It's not so bizarre anymore because many of us, or I'll speak for myself, see the pattern, understand who Obama is and what he would like to do.
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. But any sort of normal thinking human being, no matter how liberal or how internationalist they are or whatever, I've never understood why when he uttered that line, uttered those words, that his own supporters weren't like, whoa, wait a minute, wait, what did you just say?
Right.
Because that's totally crazy. He's making something up. He's saying something that's completely not true. And for all those people who are on his side and want to give him the benefit of the doubt, how is it that they didn't put on the brakes and say, wait a minute, you need to stop this nonsense right now,
Yep.
and sort of fix it from there. But obviously everyone who said that this was part of a pattern turned out to be exactly right, and y'all were wise to sort of stick with your guns on it, because I think so many people just sort of we felt like there's no way this could be true.
Absolutely. We're talking to Charles Hurt, Washington Times, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. All right, let's talk about, when I called you today, who knew we'd have a coup? But who knew? But I called you about
your you didn't know it.
All right, there you go. But I'm bummed. Wait, actually, I have that. Don't go away. Where's the rim shot? Here we go. See? I got a rim shot, baby. All right. It took me 33 years, but I got my own rim shot. Now, you wrote a great piece in the Washington Times today about Gettysburg and, of course, the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg. But the title tells it all: Another Day for Yankees to Wallow in Anti-South Hate. The perception, the history, the way it's taught, the preconceived notions. Talk about what you wrote about.
And then of course, don't forget Doris Kearns Goodwin, our apparently the person who writes history for all of us, and she delivers this unbelievable.
Well, wait a minute, Charlie. Let me stop you. If she's writing it for all of us, someone might have written some of it first. Another bump. There you go.
But actually, Steve, I think that this is an improvement, because this was so crazy, so outlandish. We know that she didn't plagiarize it, because nobody else could come up with nonsense like this. She spends the entire time talking about, like the 1960s, when she was fighting for women's rights and gay rights. She was talking about all this stuff at Gettysburg, and all these people are kind of turning around looking at one another like, really? I thought we were here to talk about what happened in the 1860s. These heroic men on both sides who shed extraordinary amounts of blood for what they believed in, and when I think of the puny politics that we see President Obama play, and we see that bizarre, twisted politicization of everything that we get from people like Doris Kearns Goodwin or any history professors that we encounter today, I'm reminded of Abraham Lincoln's address at Gettysburg, which is when it's like 3-4 graphs long. Of course, every kid used to have to memorize it.
Right.
But what is so stirring about that speech is it's short. It is so imbued with the humility of a great man and a great leader, where he says, not long, our words will not here long be remembered. Talking about himself. Are you kidding me? Some of the most memorable words in the English language, of course. But what he was saying was that there was no ability for him to say something to consecrate the land better than the fighting men who had already consecrated it with their blood. And he was so careful. And his vision at that time was to save the Union, was to preserve the Union. And he was so careful to talk about how the boys on the South had consecrated the land just as the boys on the North. He didn't. It was a unifying message. The country was cleaved in half, and he managed to come up with a totally unifying message where he honored the Southern dead as well as the Northern dead. Can you imagine that kind of humility and that kind of unity coming from a political figure today?
Oh, my gosh.
The country isn't even cleaved the way it was back then.
Oh, my gosh. And you're so right, about Lincoln, and that was one of the beauties of it. And we can't conceive of what, you and I through history we can, through reenactments and whatnot. But to know that it wasn't so long ago in the context of history, and how close we came to ceasing to be one nation, and the genius of Lincoln in doing what you just alluded alluded to and what you wrote about in your wonderful column today. It's so true. Having said all that, and you talk about Doris Kearns Goodwin and whatever, history, the politically correct version of history, not only portrays history in a politically correct manner, but if you dare to stray, if you dare to even repeat what Lincoln said and make it as your own in the aftermath of it, then you're now a racist or a bigot or a Confederate and something's wrong with you. So we are so out of whack.
Yeah, and the accusation of, how you have to be a racist if you, to talk about, to try to honestly pick apart what, even what the great emancipator, his plans were. His motive in the Civil War was not to end slavery. His motive was to preserve the Union, was to reunite the Union. That was his singular goal. And, of course, halfway through it, he brilliantly grabbed onto the moral high ground, which is to make it about ending slavery, which, let's not forget, ended slavery only in the Confederacy, not in the border states.
Right.
But if you first of all, history in the United States is in such shambles. The teaching of history is in such desperate shambles that most kids don't learn any of that. And if you ever try to have that conversation, you're right. It becomes this politically charged nonsense where people, get accused of being racist and things like that. And until we fix that, until we fix the ignorance problem that I would argue is perpetuated by the left far more than it is today on the right. Until we fix that, we're going to be in a heap of trouble.
Right, and it's an ignorance problem, Charles, born out of the fact that they don't want you to talk about it. So, and if you talk about it, or if you raise an objection and raise a question, they talk about diversity in colleges and whatnot, but of course they don't want diversity of thought. They want diversity of skin color, and that to them satisfies diversity, but all the professors have to be the same ideological bent. So you're right, and it's a great column, and you ask at the end, so why does any of this matter? I mean, the South lost and slavery did end, which is a very good thing. Every second that slavery existed in America was an abomination. And then you write that there's another important truism about history: those who fail to understand it are doomed to repeat it. Great way to end the column. I just read a story. I wish I could recount it to you, Charles, about a guy. He was either at a game or an event, and he had a Confederate flag with him, or wore a Confederate flag shirt. And of course, he was either arrested or thrown out or whatever. I mean, that's how sick it is.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And actually, I remember growing up in a small town in the South, and granted, we learned a different version of the Civil War, and it was, I think it was called the War of Northern Aggression. But at least we were taught the facts about it.
Right.
And of course, all my buddies that I went to school with, black and white, grew up, and we obtained our own perspective about things, and realized that it was, we were definitely taught a certain perspective of it, but it was, at least it was, we were exposed to a diversity of opinion.
Absolutely, and that is so gone now. It's so gone. I tell my friend, I tell my son every day, be careful what you say in school. Don't talk like you're talking to me in the house, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Don't repeat certain things outside, because it's a whole different world. Hey, Charles, have a great holiday, my friend. Thank you for your time.